Oh, seriously? Good evening, everyone. Welcome. We're glad you're here tonight. I want to extend a welcome to our candidates as well as our audience members tonight. My name is Eric Murray, and I am the president of Cascadia College here in Bothell, and I'm also on the board of directors for the Greater Bothell Chamber of Commerce. Tonight, you are here at the Candidates Forum, hosted by the Greater Bothell Chamber of Commerce, and I have a bit of an introduction to get through tonight, but we have two very hard and fast rules, and I'm going to get to one right off the bat. I'd like everybody to silence their cell phones, please. Double check, candidates as well. The first time I hear a cell phone go off, you will be excused from the venue, even if you're a candidate. So you don't want to miss it. I am an educator and a teacher, and I follow the rules. So make sure those phones are on silence. Thank you. I want to express appreciation tonight to the City of Bothell for allowing us to use the council chambers for this forum, as well as to the chamber and our staff for helping to put it together. We've taken a lot of care in making sure that the questions are appropriate and balanced and fair, and that the whole process tonight is equitable. We will also be getting some questions from the audience tonight. We've had a lot of submissions, so we won't get to everyone's question tonight. There are approximately 6 weeks remaining before the elections for the Bothell City Council. Our purpose tonight is to provide an opportunity for each of the candidates to introduce themselves to the public and express their thoughts in response to the questions that we've generated. The candidates participating in tonight's forum are on the dais, and let me introduce them. For position 2, the candidates, and if you'll, your names are up there, but if you'll raise your hand as I do this as well, I'd appreciate it. For position 2, Andy Rayam and Roz Gortz. Welcome. For position 4, James McNeil and Tim Ottersberg. And for position 6, the candidates are Davina Dewar and John Lee. Because sometimes we've lost formality in our society, I'll be addressing each of the candidates by Ms. and Mr., just to bring back kind of that form of formality that we have in politics and professionalism. So, right now I'd like to give the format for the rules and the ground rules for the forum, and then we'll begin with our questions. We will begin this forum with an introductory statement by each candidate that will inform the audience about your history, please, in the Bothell community and your vision and goals for Bothell. You'll have 2 minutes for that opening statement. Next, we will then begin questions, rotating through the candidates so that all have an opportunity to respond first. The responses will be limited to 2 minutes each. We will have all candidates answer a question within the same general topic, but the questions as we go through each set of candidates is just going to be modified a little bit, so just stay tuned to the different nuances of the questions that we ask. There are about 4 to 6 general topics and questions that we've prepared. We'll get hopefully through all of those. We will also have, and it's kind of the fun part of tonight, a lightning round of questions where you respond either yes or no. All of you should have your yes or no cards. Yes? No, you don't have your cards, or yes, you do have it? It's going to be the yes sign at the moment. All right. We will also incorporate some audience questions. We've been collecting questions from the community already through email and Facebook. We've collected a number from those sources. As well, our staff will be collecting questions from the audience collected here today. You were given the opportunity to write questions on a blank white card that was out in the foyer. And if you still have those or need to submit those, please do so within the first 10 minutes of the forum. And Lori is in the back. Actually, the basket's sitting on the back banister there. They need to go in the basket so we have time to sort. Again, we are only going to be able to get through a handful of those questions tonight. We will then end with 2 minutes of a closing statement. All candidates will be allowed to respond or clarify any issues that we talked about during the evening. So now we come to the second hard and fast rule of the night. And that is our timekeeper this evening is Aaron Buchan. He's from Lovestead Worthington Insurance. Thanks, Aaron, for giving us your night tonight. We know that he knows how to use a clock. He is going to be keeping time. During the 2-minute questions, you will get a yellow card at the 30-second mark. You have 30 seconds to wrap it up. At the 2-minute mark, you will get the red card. I will cut you off at the red card. That's the rule. I'll say, thank you, Ms. Gortz. You're done. Okay, so I don't like to be rude, so figure that out. We also have 1-minute questions, and I'll explain when the yellow card goes up at the 45-second interval during those questions. I'll tell you when we switch from 2 minutes to 1 minute. So, to our audience, I hope you will listen intently and refrain from applause or any other indication of your preferences. This is our time to listen to the candidates, not show favoritism towards any of the candidates. This is not a campaign moment. This is an opportunity to understand each candidate's perspective and point of view. So I would appreciate that if you could help us with that. And candidates, I'd like to ask each of you to enter the forum as a fair-minded candidate. Keep your responses succinct and focused on the questions, and we don't tolerate personal attacks. So thank you very much. Those are our rules. I hope everyone's, if you're good with that, raise your hand. Everybody good in the audience with that? All right. Very good. We're about to get started. We're going to start with opening remarks by each candidate. You have 2 minutes. What we'd like to know minimally is how long you've lived in Bothell, how you've been involved in the community, and what your vision and goals are for Bothell. We're going to start with the position 2 candidates. And Ms. Gortz, you're first.
All right. Hey, thank you.
Begins.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here tonight and talk about Bothell, this place that we all love and are invested in. We are united in our affection for this place and our hopes for its future. I've lived in and around the Bothell area since I was 6, and I first attended council meetings as an elementary student, and I've been following the council ever since. I've served my community as a classroom volunteer and a team mom, an art docent, and recently as an organizer of a community disaster relief team. I've been proud of Bothell since I was a little girl because this is my hometown. But lately I'm proud of Bothell because of all the great things happening here. From McMinimans to UW Cascadia to all the new restaurants and that mysterious unnamed specialty grocery store that's still coming. There are great things coming to Bothell, and I'm really proud to be from Bothell. We are no longer a place to simply be passed through, but we have become a destination point in our own right. I want to see us continue on that path. We need to push through the remaining challenges to complete the downtown revitalization, as envisioned by you, the community members, and our council and our city staff. The new businesses that follow will build our economic base, making us a much stronger city. There are challenges that come with growth, just as there are challenges that come with no growth. I'd much prefer our challenges to the cities that are dying and losing jobs and losing citizens. We have the opportunity to wisely plan for and manage this growth, focusing density and thereby protecting the character of our neighborhoods, and at the same time giving people options for the kind of place they want to live. So I would appreciate your support and your vote.
Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Rayum.
Thank you. My name is Andy Rayum. I'm running for position 2. I am a son of Bothell. I was born and delivered from the hospital to a house in Bothell. I spent some time in faraway places like Shoreline and Edmonds when I was in my 20s, but I bought my first house here, and I'm raising my 2 sons here as well. So basically, the majority of my life I've been in Bothell. I've been involved in the community for about the last 9 years. It started off working for the city, actually, as a consultant for their stormwater management manual. Then became a planning commissioner. Since then, I've served 4 years on the city council. I was on the planning commission, I believe, for 2. I wasn't heroes when I was living abroad in Edmonds, but I was a volunteer firefighter there as well. My sons are at Maywood Elementary, and I have taught science docent in their classes, as well as I've done little league coaching. So my vision for Bothell, there's really 2 pieces to it. There's the actual physical vision, and then there's the persona. I would like to see the downtown of Bothell revitalized. I would also like to see the rest of the city's quality of life improved from where we are right now. There's quite a few services. I've sat up here for 4 years and heard concerns and requests for services that we don't fund. And I think we could do a better job at that as a city to provide more funding towards things that people like, such as parks and open spaces, roads that have actually lines on it. Oh, I'm out of time?
That's 30.
I have 30 seconds? I better hurry up. Okay, so the second part of it, and this is kind of the tougher part, is that we've gone through a rough time right now in the city. Regionally and locally, I think people have come to realize that they have distrust in the city. And regionally, we have a black eye, and I want to turn that around, and that's why I ran for re-election.
Great. Thank you very much. For position 4, Mr. McNeil.
My name is James McNeil, and I was born and raised on Finn Hill, which is just south of the Bothell line. So I grew up in and around Bothell. My wife is a Bothell native as well. She went to West Hill Elementary, Canyon Park, and Bothell High, whereas I went to Finn Hill Junior High and Juanita High School. As growing up as a child here in Bothell and in Kirkland and Finn Hill, I noticed a lot of places that we could go as kids and have fun and just ride our bikes down the streets and do all these wonderful things as children. And today, it's a little harder for our kids to do those kinds of things. And so I'm trying to run for Bothell City Council because I want to preserve the way of life for all of Bothell and make sure that we and our kids have a place that they can go out and play and enjoy. Recently, 9 months ago, we formed a group called One Bothell. So I'm the president of One Bothell, and it's an organization, a nonprofit organization working to preserve the Wayne Golf Course. 3 guys got together up in the ski lodge and worked together endless hours to try to work to preserve something that was near and dear to Bothell. We did that in a fashion that we feel was being very positive and proactive. When we heard that we cannot do something, we were told we couldn't. We went out and found a way to make it happen. So being a construction manager has taught me many things in life, and one of the things that's taught me is that different cities have different issues, and within the city of Bothell we have an issue with growth right now. We want to make sure that we're growing properly, but we want to make sure that all of the things that we're doing are growing us in the proper manner. So I'm also a football coach. I have a vision for Bothell to grow. It's near and dear to me, so I want to make sure that we're doing it in a proper manner.
Mr. Ottersberg.
Thank you. My name is Tim Ottersberg. My wife and I moved to Bothell in 2007 when my wife was pregnant with our first child. We now have 2 children, a son and a daughter. They're 8 and 6 years old. They're in 1st and 2nd grade at Kokanee Elementary. I've either volunteered or done fundraising activities for North Bothell Little League, for Bothell Care Day, Sustainamania, Senior Services, as well as a nonprofit called Neighbor Care. My vision for Bothell is to ensure that Bothell keeps its character. The reason my wife and I chose Bothell was because it felt small. We both came from small towns. We loved that feel. Things felt simple. Things felt safe. And looking around the Seattle area where we wanted to raise our children, Bothell was it. And I don't want to see us lose that. I know that Bothell's growing. Greater Seattle is growing. I think we can grow in a much more responsible way than we are today. Traffic is awful, not just because we all hate sitting in traffic, but because the traffic issues we're experiencing are actually an issue of public safety. I want to see those addressed. Lastly, I want to rebuild the relationship that our city council has both with itself and with our community. There's a lot of toxicity on our council right now, and it's really ugly and there's no place for it. I want to see that change. My parents early on taught my brother and I, my twin brother who's sitting in the audience, that you can't just hope that things change around you. You actually have to be the change that you want to see. So that's why I'm here.
Great. Thank you very much. For position 6, Ms. Dewar.
Hi, my name is Davina Dewar. I'm running for position 6. I've lived in Bothell since 2001. My husband and I searched exhaustively for a home. I was pregnant, and I saw Main Street, and that was the end of the story. I have served on the Landmark Preservation Board for the last 10 years and chair for 8 of those years. In 2011, a dear friend and I co-founded a fundraising campaign called Milk Money, where we raised change from bottles put in local businesses, and we raised $10,000 this year. I was then invited to join the North Shore Schools Foundation, which I've served on for 4 years, most recently as vice president. I am running for this position because, like everyone up here, I adore my hometown, my chosen hometown. And I want to see balance brought back to Bothell. I want thoughtful development that maintains our small town charm. We have, that development, it comes a lot of opportunity, but as discussed previously, there are issues. We have a lot of traffic. We have parking issues, and our quality of life is suffering. And I would like to see more amenities for those people that are coming, for the growing population: parks, open spaces, retail. And currently, the atmosphere on City Council is it's not one of mutual respect and transparency. It's not one that's collaborative, and these are really tough issues, and you can't solve these problems in that kind of atmosphere. I promise to be a committed steward of Bothell's financial, historic, and environmental resources, and I would appreciate your support.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Lee.
Thank you. Thank you for the time to tell you a little bit about my background. My name is John Lee, and I grew up here starting from 1976 when it seemed like we were 50 miles away from everywhere. I went to Bothell High. I graduated from it. It's nice to see that my two sons, one of the sons, Preston, he is just entering his first year at Bothell. A lot more complicated than the Bothell that I knew. And then my son Ellis is in Maywood. I'm actively in their life, helping them through the PTA, auctions, and then also the Canyon Park Junior High boosters when my son Preston was going there. I grew up in the house that I eventually bought when my mother passed away, and so I have deep roots, and I really care about this community just as much as anybody else. So if you tally it up, it's 39 plus years. Some folks who have asked me, why do I want to run for something that I absolutely did not even think about a couple years ago? And I will tell you it's because I was a selfish pig, I did not care about anything but me. But in looking at this community and the wonderful things that people have shown me in this campaign, it shamed me. And it led me to think, wow, I got to give back. And I want my sons to see what I can do. So we're at a crossroads in Bothell, and we need to deal with a lot of issues, as these august people have said. I know that in the time that we have, we're going to reveal some of the things that we have in mind and thoughts. I just want to keep on one thing. I care. I have competency, you'll hopefully see, and then I also am in it for the long run. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much to all of our candidates for your opening remarks. We are now on to our first series of questions. They will be...
Can I ask the candidates to back away from your mics about 6 to 8 inches, please? Sorry.
That's our tech support. We listen to him. So. Our first series of questions will be different by position. So there are 3 questions in this overall topic about city priorities. So for position 4, Mr. Ottersberg, you'll begin with this question. And Mr. McNeil, you'll be asked the same question. What do you see as the top 3 core services the city should provide? You have 2 minutes.
I would say the number one service the city needs to provide centers around public safety. I would include fire department, EMS services, and police. And I'm going to specifically focus on fire services because I believe that those are underfunded. It's an area where I'm going to support fully funding our fire department, whether it's an RFA, which is something that's been talked about, and I'm sure will come up tonight, or whether it's another model. Our fire department is going to get full support from me on getting fully funded. Police services as well. Another service that we're going to need to focus on is traffic and transportation. The traffic difficulties that we see in our intersections are a massive problem. And it's not just, studies are showing that it's not just citizens moving in and around Bothell, it's others from outside of Bothell passing through Bothell on their way to someplace else. That causes major choke points in our city. We're getting ready to begin a project at 228th and Bothell Everett Highway to address the issue because that was the worst that the study had found. We need to do additional studies in that arena and identify more of those to get traffic moving. But also, in and around our schools, the fact that the school systems are providing less funding for transportation means that more students are walking to school. And around lots of our schools, particularly Frank Love, it's a real problem. Students are not able to walk safely to and from school. That's something that absolutely has to be addressed. And lastly, I believe we need to provide better guidance around the building that we're doing and ensuring that we're being environmentally friendly as we do it, that the mitigation fees that are paid are adequate and go toward traffic mitigation, environmental remediation, and things that need to happen in that arena to make sure that we're building safely.
Thank you, Mr. Ottersberg. Mr. McNeil, what do you see as the top 3 core services the city should provide?
So I think it starts with our comprehensive plan. We need to take a strong, hard look at our comprehensive plan and how we want to grow our city. We want to make sure that we have a balanced growth within our city. We also have public safety, which we want to make sure that we are fully funding our fire department so we have adequate safety services for our fire and police. And we want to make sure that we have safe routes to school. So when we talk about transportation, as a city, we need to make sure that we're sitting at the table with our legislators at the state level and the federal level to make sure that we're bringing the dollars into our city that we deserve to have. We have a growth spurt right now that's going on, and when we go down and we check that our traffic mitigation fees are not aligned with what we need for sidewalks, crosswalks, to get our kids to school safely, we need to take a strong, hard look at the decisions that we're making on how we're collecting those fees so that we collect adequate fees that we can pay for those types of things. When it comes to the parks as well, we need to make sure that we're preserving parkland around the development, and we need to make sure that we've got adequate traffic mitigation and park mitigation fees that will take care of funding those types of things. Speed throughout our neighborhoods is a big issue right now. Being out on the streets and talking to neighbors all across Bothell, the speed throughout our neighborhoods is critical. People are concerned about their kids being hit by cars. They're concerned about not having safe sidewalks for their kids to walk on. So we can preserve that by having transportation and making sure that we're collecting transportation dollars. When we talk about revitalization of downtown, I think it's important that we do finish the revitalization of downtown, but I think it's important that we take care of paying fair share throughout the development across all of Bothell. So I think that we need to have a balanced approach to our growth. We need to have public safety for both police and fire and make sure that they're fully funded. And we need to make sure that we're keeping our kids safe in and around schools.
Great. Thank you very much. Just a reminder for those who entered the auditorium late tonight, we ask that you please silence your cell phones. If a cell phone goes off, we'll ask you to leave the venue. Thank you. So under the same theme of operations, this question goes out to the position 6 candidates. Mr. Lee, you'll go first. Please outline 3 things the council can do to improve outreach, communication, and transparency. Outreach, communication, and transparency with the Bothell residents.
I think first and foremost, because we are a republic that is based upon the power residing in the people, you need to have regular forums, official or otherwise, that are going to promote that kind of thinking. And I've actually started that with how to build a better Bothell town hall meeting. We've started in the last prior to the primary, and we're going to do 2 more, God willing, before the end of this run before the general election. And you really get the genius and the ideas, disparate or otherwise, of that. The other thing is that to communicate is also proactive. I think every one of the candidates needs to go out and really just, engage on a regular basis. This is a great venue, a great forum. I wish there'd be more of that. I think that would really solicit more interest and elicit more, participation from the people that are there. People are basically tired of government as usual. We say we're a republic of the people, by the people, for the people, but it's starting to act like we're not. So therefore, I think we seriously need to reinvent or actually go back to what the Founding Fathers want, which is an open forum. It's not didactic, it's not one way, but it is both 2 ways. So there's no magic bullet. Transparency is a lovely word that's often overused. I think what it comes down to is this type of venue with people of disparate backgrounds talking and exchanging views, and us possibly shutting up. Thank you.
Ms. Doer.
I'll begin by saying I don't believe what Mr. Lee said about transparency. I think transparency is the root of democracy. And in order for you to...
Just speak a little louder for us, please.
Sorry. I said transparency is the root of democracy. And if you don't believe that your government's being transparent with you, then you don't have a relationship. And if you don't have a relationship, there's no point for communication. Regarding the 3 things that I would do for outreach, as a council member, I would have regular office hours that were posted so that people would know where and when they could meet me. I would also agree. I know Trish Sandberg has regular coffee kind of meetings where she invites anyone from the public to a venue, and she just listens to what people have to say. I mean, I think that it's a two-way street. It's us reaching out to the public, but it's also them coming back to us and knowing that we're actually listening to them. And I think that's been lacking in our current city council.
Right. Thank you very much. We are on to the final question in this series about city operations, and we're going to the position 2 candidates. Ms. Gortz, you'll go first. What should the top 3 budget priorities be next year?
Thank you for that question. The top 3 budget priorities. I do think we have a fire department that is in urgent need of funding. And I do believe that public safety is the #1 responsibility of government. So I would probably make that a top priority. Transportation, we have got to get around to solving all of our choke points. I mean, we need to prioritize a list from a whole city view, like we are doing right now at 228th and the Highway 527. So funneling just as making a real priority for solving choke points in our transportation system. And thirdly, I'd like to see, I think this will help overall. There's a system called Checkbook that can be puts your budget online, and I know that's come up recently in the city. I would love to see us put money and time behind putting that system online. It takes all the data, all the numbers that is in the huge budget, and it puts them into graphs and charts that the citizens and that the council members can then read and maybe understand more quickly without spending days looking through a budget. You can understand in 15 minutes what the priorities are of the city, where the money's going, where the funds exist, and what you could then prioritize, how you could prioritize from there.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rayam, top 3 funding priorities for next year.
So just real quick, so we have a biannual budget, and so next year is the midpoint in the budget, so there's not a whole lot of, we can make budget adjustments.
Hypothetically.
Okay, hypothetically, sorry. Well, if we're educating just to point out, but so one of the main issues that came up actually on Tuesday is the fire department. And my goal is to fund the fire department in full by the end of this year, not next year. The next thing that I'd like to see, if I was allowed to do this, is to install smart signals along State Route 522. It's pretty frustrating to make it 100 feet and then be at another stoplight and then be at the next stoplight, and those can be signalized, and so the traffic can flow more smoothly through our downtown revitalization. The third thing, and actually these aren't in order, well actually I put this one above the smart signals, but the school zones. I've been taking pictures of school zones in other cities, and I plan to bring those to the council. I'm looking forward to the staff is going to do a study of the schools, and they're going to bring it to the council so we can see that where all the school zones are and what's the status of them. But there's a lot of improvement that we can do compared to other cities for the school zones and making it more safe for children to get to and from school. Sidewalks would be great, but those are extremely expensive. But there's a lot of things we can do probably right now and work with the school district, hopefully, to get those done.
All right. Thank you very much. That concludes our Series 1 questions. We're on to our Series 2 questions. All of these questions relate to our land assets. And Position 6 candidates will go first. Ms. Dewar, specifically, you'll be going first on this first question. How would you go about supporting the completion of the park at Bothell Landing?
Okay. I think the only way, other than grants, I'm not sure where we stand as far as pursuing grants. I know that's our first best option. But I would say the only way beyond that is to put out a parks bond for voter approval I think the only way that you impose taxes and fees on people is by a vote of the citizens, and I think that's been lacking in our current city council. We have a city hall that was not put to the vote of the people and has caused budget constraints, and no one was able to vote on it except for the 7 people on city council. And so that's what I think. We should have a vote for a bond and levy that includes the park at Bothell Landing.
Thank you. Mr. Lee.
I would say that the best way to finance it is not through a parks bond, because we've already had a lot of bond issues. Proposition 1 ostensibly was to pay for that, and it failed. A close vote as it was. So therefore that has been proven to be ineffective and probably not supportable by the people. I would say that the sale of Lot O that has the contamination from the dry cleaning facility that was previously there, if it's cleaned up to the degree that is passing muster, I think would garner a lot of revenue for the city without increasing the taxes for the populace. And then also possibly a user fee model, something to that degree, because I will tell you that as a taxpayer, as a resident of Bothell, I am tired of taxes, and I do not want to add more to what's already there. So if we can not do that park bond that was suggested by my opponent, I think that would be better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. For our position 2 candidates, Mr. Rayam, you'll go first on this one. If the city acquires Wayne Golf Course, what should the future be for this property?
That's an excellent question. So what I would like to see happen if we do acquire the Wayne Golf Course is that we have a public process to discuss it. There will be the opportunity for that because Forterra is the third party that's trying to buy both the front and the back 9. Once that occurs, we do have time. The clock will be ticking, but we have options for how we can fund it. One of the options would be to get regional dollars. Regional dollars have strings attached, so we need to be careful about what the public wants in that space before we start trying to acquire money regionally to just having Forterra. I'm sorry, that's probably not extremely clear. Just having Forterra buy it doesn't mean it's over. We have to actually find the funding locally to buy the Wayne Golf Course from Forterra. So getting the funding regionally, we have to be careful that the strings attached, we make sure what it should be. But what I would like it to be is a passive recreational area that is connected to Blythe Park, that has we can do a lot of amazing stuff. I'm the Y8 Salmon Recovery Council Vice Chair, and I brought just the aerial photograph of that area, and they just looked at it like, wow. I mean, the opportunities there to improve the Sammamish River are basically staggering, and the ability of it to actually provide habitat for Chinook salmon would be overwhelming. But that's my opinion, though, and like I said, I think it's most important that we talk to the public about what would they like to see there, and get the right mix of funding to make sure that we can accommodate what the public's vision is.
Thank you. Ms. Gortz.
Yeah, Wayne's is truly a unique and beautiful place. I mean, it is special, and there's just nothing else like it around. So I would love to see it preserved as it is. My only concern is, even with the partnership with Forterra, is how do we come up with enough money to do that? Because it is, we keep hearing that we're short of in our budget. And then more so, though, once we've purchased it, how do we take care of it for the next 50, 100 years? Who will pay for that? Will that be a city responsibility entirely? But I do hope that by working in public and private partnerships, we can come up with ways to do that.
Thank you. For our position 4 candidates, your land assets question is this: how should the city address the park's needs in the Snohomish County portion of the city? And Mr. Ottersberg, you'll go first.
Thank you. Well, being the only candidate, and if elected, I'd be the only council member in the 40% of Bothell that is in Snohomish County. I care a whole lot about parks in Snohomish County. We've got almost none, very few. When I drive my children to a park, it tends to be fairly far away from our house. It's usually a county park. We absolutely have to spend, Snohomish County gets a disproportionate sum of money invested in infrastructure. In general, and parks is only one of those areas. I'd like to address all of it, but if we're talking specifically about parks, we absolutely need additional parks. The city's going to have to find ways to fund, and I mean, from my perspective, King County has a whole lot of parks. I would like to see if we needed to borrow money from the budget in order to move it to open and maintain parks in Snohomish County, then I believe we should do that.
Thank you. Mr. McNeil.
Well, parks are near and dear to me, and I think they're near and dear to a lot of people within the community of Bothell. And I think the most important thing to do is to start the conversation. Start to take a look at our city, our community, not only King County, but Snohomish County as a whole. We need to unite our community, not divide our community based on King County versus Snohomish County. We are one community, one city, and we have the ability to preserve parklands throughout all of Bothell. There's several groups, Shelton View Woods, there's West Hill, there's all kinds of groups that are starting to pop up within our community that are trying to preserve land and space throughout our community. What we need to do is sit down at the table with them and have an open conversation, just like we did with the Wayne Golf Course, and try to figure out a way to preserve these lands. There's grants that are available. There's all kinds of other things that we can do at the state and the federal level. But the bottom line is we have to have the conversation. You can't say that because King County has more parks than Snohomish County that that's fair. We are one community, and we need to preserve our parks and open space across our entire community. We could take a look at a regional parks system, working with Kenmore, Woodinville, Redmond, all the other jurisdictions around us, all the other communities around us, and see how we can create a nice big regional park system that we can all enjoy, including our future generations.
All right. Thank you very much. We are now going to move to the series of our forum tonight with some audience questions. And the first one is actually one that some of you have already addressed. You are going to get 1 minute to formulate an answer for this question. The yellow card will go up at the 45-second mark. That means you have 15 more seconds to wrap it up. 1 minute to answer this question. And since some of you have already addressed the topic, traffic, and I'll ask it specifically here in a minute, I would encourage you just to be very clear and directed in trying to answer the question. Traffic is a major concern in Bothell. How would you suggest we address the traffic and parking constraints that development brings? Mr. Rayum.
So for the parking constraints, I think we could build more parking at the parking ride, just right down here by Kaysner Way. The more important part to talk about is traffic. We are willfully giving most of our tax dollars for transit to other cities, and so we need to turn that around and start getting more transit into our city. Transit being buses mainly. The other part we could do is try to encourage people to get out of their cars by providing sidewalks, by providing safe bicycle routes, and providing facilities for people to get to and from the transit systems. That's really the only way we're going to have any accomplishment in trying to reduce the amount of traffic. I was at a presentation today, and we do have one of the worst traffic congestion issues in the greater Puget Sound area, Pierce, King, and Snohomish County.
Ms. Gortz.
Yeah, on the topic of transit, I would definitely show up at every meeting that I could be at to advocate for dollars in Bothell, because we were woefully left out of the last discussion. So we do need to see more of those dollars come to Bothell, and I would show up at every meeting and advocate for that. And we also need to prioritize, like I said before, just take the whole city view. What are the worst choke points, and just begin to knock those off one by one.
Mr. McNeil.
With transportation, we need to make sure that we're sitting at the table and make sure that we are part of the discussion when we talk about light rail, sound transit, the different 1, 2, and 3. We have the opportunity, I was just at a transportation meeting, to be included in those conversations. We have people that are moving from Seattle to Bellevue, Bellevue to Redmond, Linwood in as quick as 24 minutes, and we're not involved in those conversations, so we need to make sure that we're getting involved in those conversations. We have assets like the park and ride in downtown. We could definitely make sure that we have additional parking there to get people to and from, and then we also have Canyon Park Park and Ride as well. We should be doing some things at that. We could also work on changing lights, making sure that our lights are operating at maximum and the potential that they can operate to get the flow of traffic through quicker.
Mr. Ottersberg.
On the transit front, as someone who uses public transit every day to where I work downtown, I take community transit and or sound transit. And I used to leave from Canyon Park Park and Ride, except that Park and Ride actually fills up at about 6:15 every morning, and no parking. So I'm an additional part of the problem because I drive to Linwood in order to catch a bus in a place that has 1,000 spots. We need to work to increase the parking at that park and ride, as well as the downtown park and ride, and sit at the table, as everyone has said, with the different transit groups. But we need to do additional studies, the major choke points in the different areas in Bothell. I sit at council meetings and you hear the council members talk about their areas of the cities and the traffic that they're talking about. I want to make sure that we're covering all of the areas and a study is done across the city.
Ms. Dewar.
I'm the fourth person to say transit is a big issue. Obviously, we pay the taxes, but we don't receive the services. And one of the things that Tim had said about the park and rides filling up is absolutely true. My husband rides the bus, and I think we're missing an opportunity by not making that park and ride in downtown Bothell a multi-level parking garage. It sits behind a huge retaining wall, and there's no reason why we can't have that be a multi-level parking garage, and that would serve the purpose of also being parking for weekends and evenings to service downtown. Again, we also need to work out smart signals and try to do what we can to smooth the way for left-hand turns, but that's just a few of my ideas.
Thank you. Mr. Lee.
Having worked in logistics for 8.5 years on a professional basis around the world and here in the United States, I will tell you that there's no magic fix. There isn't. If you're looking for one solution to solve this problem that's multifaceted, you're never going to find it. It's a multi-patchwork, matrixed kind of scenario. Some of the folks have mentioned it. Things that were not mentioned was the possibly the usage of school buses during the summer when it's idle. A pedestrian walkway that is conducive for that. The bikes that are rental based upon like the Seattle model, where you swipe a card and you get to use it and then come back to the point. These are ways that you can help to increase what is called throughput, and that's what we are ultimately talking about. But to have one solution, no, it has to be a matrix, and these are all valid solutions. But we just have to have the momentum to do that.
Thank you. So now comes my favorite part of the evening, because I get to ask the question and all you can do is say yes or no. How many times do we want our politicians to do that, right? So, are you ready? There's about a dozen of them here. We tried to pick the best singers we could. All right, number one. And everybody puts it up at the same time. There's a richness in a community where people can afford to both live and work. Do you believe Bothell currently offers a balance of affordable housing to support this concept? Okay, 5-1. Should the city put forward a new parks bond measure for the ballot? And that is split right down the middle on that one. Are you in favor of a regional fire authority?
Oh, I like it.
Looks like some research needs to be done on that one. This one comes from our audience. Should the city ban fireworks? Okay, at some point, Mr. McNeil, you're going to have to show us an answer. I know you're looking at him yourself.
Can I answer it?
No. No. If you can't answer it, I guess you put up blank. All right. Should the city continue to appeal the Growth Hearings Board decision for the North Creek Habitat Protection Area? I'll say that one again. Should the city continue to appeal the Growth Hearings Board decision for the North Creek Habitat Protection Area? Okay, thank you. Should the city fund the Riverfest Festival again? Are you in favor of reinstating a shoreline board? Are you a proponent of any additional business taxation within the city as a means of offsetting budget shortfalls? Thank you. Should the city enforce a retail-only requirement on Main Street? You're getting more contemplative as we go down the list. Thank you. Will you be attending the Bothell Beer Festival in downtown on Saturday, October 17th? Thank you. We are the Chamber of Commerce. Every chance we get to plug an event, right? All right. We're going to return back to our audience questions where you do get to comment a little bit on the answers. Hope I didn't put you through the grill too much there. We're going to start with position 6, and Mr. Lee, you're going to begin this round. You have 1 minute on this, so the yellow card goes up at the 45-second mark. Please describe how you would increase the walkability of our community, especially the role of sidewalks.
Especially the...
Role of sidewalks.
I will tell you that it's very difficult without breaking the budget. We need to take a look at what streets are high throughput areas that have a lot of volume traffic, and then we need to figure out what the cost is, and then we need to put it in front of the people as whether or not they want to spend the money, because it's their money ultimately for a small section of the area. The reason why I say that is because it's very easy to address the pothole on your street because you care about your street. But does your neighbor or the neighbor 50 feet or 100 feet away from you care? If they do, great. Let's move forward. I'm not saying that we're taking away anything from anyone, but at the same time, let's weight the decisions with reality, the cost of doing business, because we want to do everything, and yet we don't want to have to raise our taxes. That's not possible.
Ms. Dewar, walkability and the role of sidewalks in our community. 1 minute.
My opponent brought up budgets, and I would simply say that budgets are a reflection of our values. And our number one value is our children, and we have children currently walking to school on sides of roads without sidewalks. And it has to be a major priority, and that means reaching out to the community and listening to where the worst areas are and having a plan. We don't currently have a plan for where the sidewalks need to go, much less how we're going to fund them. But I believe it is a serious issue to many people in this community, and it has to be a priority.
Mr. Ottersberg, walkability and the role of sidewalks.
I would make the areas around schools the number one priority. As I said before, transportation budgets for schools are in decline. It's the city's responsibility to pick up the tab when that happens. I would focus very much on ensuring that there are proper sidewalks, crosswalks, lights, signage, you name it, around our schools. That's going to be number one. Walking around, I've done a lot of walking around Bothell lately, doorbelling, and there are a whole lot of areas of Bothell that do not have sidewalks. I've heard some citizens say, "Oh, we don't want any. They don't want anybody in their neighborhood." I'm not sure if I think we need some sidewalks there. The way to fund it, the way I want to fund it, is to focus on finishing our downtown, bringing in the tax dollars associated with the businesses that would open, the jobs that would be created, and use the revenue associated with that right now we're leaving on the table to fund projects like that. So I would do that first. I would focus on sidewalks after.
Mr. McNeil, walkability and sidewalks.
I think we need to be at the table with Safe Routes to Schools. I think that there's grant programs available for our community that we can, if we're at the table, we might be able to get. We also need to take a look at our development. We're developing our community, and through those developments, we should be able to collect transportation fees that align it with the needs of our community. A crosswalk with a flashing beacon is about $10,000. And if you take a look at how we are working as a city right now with our development, if we were to collect $1,500 from every single family home, in addition to what we're collecting right now for transportation fees, think about how many sidewalks we could build next to our schools. We have schools up in the north end in Snohomish County where parents, when we're knocking on the doors, are telling us they're scared. One parent even said that their child was hit. We need to find a way to collect transportation dollars from our development as we grow our city so that we can pay for the crosswalks and walkability for our kids and our seniors as well. Thank you.
I think we anticipated that you two would be sitting like this, so that's why we're jumping over you sometimes. But we do have a balanced question sheet in front of us, so our apologies for placing you in the wrong place. But Ms. Gortz, you're next.
Yes. So walkability in our city, it's one of the things I love about our new downtown area is how walkable it is. I've done it a few times recently, and I keep talking to people who live in that area now, and they love being able to live and walk down into the city and go to restaurants and all that. So it is extremely valuable, and we all enjoy it. It is extremely expensive. I do think it's why it is so important to finish our downtown revitalization and get that revenue flowing so that we can fund these types of things. And then we prioritize in our school zones with sidewalks for our students and then in our senior areas, making sure that we keep our people safe. And I like the city's current approach where as a person develops or as a developer develops an area, they put in the sidewalks. The cost never comes to me, the taxpayer, or eventually if I buy a home in a place, but the developer is in charge of putting the sidewalks in.
Mr. Ram.
Well, we could start by reinstating our sidewalk program. Usually a city this size has a sidewalk program that tries to make the connections between developments that occur so that there are walkable sidewalks. We could paint the lines on our roads so it's clear where the fog line is and where the center line is so people actually keep their car on the road. Lowering the speed, that's something that's talked about a lot recently, regionally, to lower speeds to 20 miles per hour, which I'm sure is extremely popular, but it does make it a lot more safe. There's a lot of studies about how safe actually it is if people are driving at 20 miles an hour versus 35, 45 miles an hour for pedestrian safety. And the last part, and because my dad's here, I want to make sure that I make this clear, but for lighting, at night and walking around, lighting would be a good idea to look at and see if we need more lighting. But for my dad, make sure that you're not putting it in places that bother them so it doesn't shine in their bedroom and that type of thing at night.
All right, thank you very much. This is audience question number 3. Mr. Rayam, you'll start with this one as well. Name one issue or project that is not already being pursued by the city that you think should be a priority. Something that's not being pursued but should be a priority.
The Wayne Golf Course. The city is not pursuing the Wayne Golf Course. It's a community group, and I think it's unfortunate. I'm totally stealing your thunder here. I'm sorry. But if there is one project that I would prioritize as the one, that would be it.
Ms. Gortz.
Can you ask the question one more time?
What is one issue or project that is not being pursued by the city that you think should be a priority?
Yeah. So I want to talk again about the checkbook online. I don't know for sure if the city is still pursuing it. I know it came up in a council meeting. I really think that's a critical help to our citizens to understand the budget and to be able to look at it quickly and understand where money's being spent and so that you can then, when you have a concern, if you want sidewalks in your neighborhood, you can see how that fits in to the priorities. And I think we would all be playing from the same workbook.
Mr. McNeil.
I'm going to have to say agree with Andy with the Wayne Golf Course, but I want to take that beyond and say that I think that the city of Bothell needs to be looking at a city community-wide park system. We now have a parks director, so we need to take this to the next level and make sure that we're communicating with all parts of Bothell so that we can preserve lands throughout Bothell.
Mr. Ottersberg.
I want to see the city double its efforts on outreach to the community in general. I talk to a lot of citizens who don't know what's going on in the city. They don't know that council meetings are the first 3 Tuesdays of every month. They don't know what the city is doing. They may get the Bothell Bridge, but they don't read it. I want to see us increase communication with our citizens, build a better relationship than they have today, and get citizens more involved in the process. I'm actually disappointed that there are only 9 candidates for 3 seats in a city of 41,000. I think the more candidates that we'd had, the better choice you get in the end. I want to see more people involved.
Ms. Dewar.
So I've already mentioned the one project would be the expansion of the park and ride behind Main Street, but I'm going to put my Landmark Preservation Board hat on now and say that the restoration of Main Street in the last Prop 1 bond, there was an $8 million line item for Main Street, but it was not about it was about the street. It wasn't about what really Main Street is about, which is the buildings. That street, when I started on the Landmark Board, I walked up and down with my child in my stroller, and I measured bricks, and I drew out a plan of what the north side of Main Street would look like restored, and it's amazing, and it's a resource that we haven't even begun to tap. And I'm worried about Main Street in this downtown revitalization and making sure that we preserve that really valuable asset that's unique to Bothell.
Mr. Lee.
I think we need to promote Bothell. And this is not a suck-up move for the Bothell Chamber of Commerce. I really do believe that. I don't think we do a good job, if at all, about having Bothell become a destination place for people to come and visit, and thereby increasing the user and fee, taxes that comes from people that from outside of this area to enjoy the downtown sections corridor that we work so hard to try to get done. What do I mean by that? Woodinville has its wine. Redmond has its Microsoft. Kirkland has its Shore. What do we have? Well, we have a lot, but we need to tell the world about it in a way that makes sense so that people can come, stay for a little bit, and then go away.
All right, you must have been reading the audience minds, because we have two more audience questions, and the next one is, and Mr. McNeil, you're going to start with this. What is the role of wineries and breweries in the city of Bothell?
What is the role of a winery and brewery in the city of Bothell?
Or your anticipated expectation of wineries and breweries in the city?
Well, my expectation of what a winery or brewery can do for the city of Bothell is to bring a sense of community and bring people together for entertainment. If we can find a way to bring people down to our downtown corridor and wine and dine and make it a sense of community, places where people want to come and stay, they're going to want to come back. And I think that the wineries and the breweries, as we've seen out in Woodinville and the different things that they're doing out there, we could have the same thing. I think more so brewery here, but I think we could do the same thing here and get a sense of community and people wanting to come together and enjoy wine and beer down. And I think we also need to find a way to make downtown Bothell also interact with the river, because that's a unique asset that we have that some of the other cities might not have.
Mr. Ottersberg, breweries and wineries in the city.
I would look forward to those, the Brewers Alley that they're talking about, as well as wineries. I'm a fan of both, by the way, wine and beer. I want to see downtown Bothell be a destination, the combination of wineries, breweries, and the finish of theater, McMinimans, you name it. Since moving to Bothell, my wife and I, we come down to Bothell downtown to have dinner, but for other entertainment, we go, and unfortunately, we spend our dollars in other cities. And I hate that. That's leaking tax dollars that we should be realizing within our city. And I think things like wineries, breweries are a way to capture those dollars and keep them here.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Rayum, wineries and breweries.
So we're about to get McMinimans opened up, and that's going to have quite an influence, I think, on wineries and breweries, their persona within the city. I think everybody's really looking forward to that. We do have another Foggy Noggin. They're looking to move down onto East Riverside Drive. They already are within the city, I believe. I think the important part, so I'm not opposed to, I don't want it to be just one big drunk fest in downtown Bothell, but I think having, food, wineries and breweries, but the important part is to start providing some retail. We have restaurants. We have some now. I'd like to see a lot more retail on top, give people some alcohol and they go spend more money at our retail shop. So I see that as the main benefit of having wineries and breweries in the city.
Ms. Courts.
I never really understood the value of a winery or a brewery until I was in England at a pub, and I realized it's actually totally a place about community. It's where people exchange the news of the day. It's where they catch up with their friends. And so I hope that it has that kind of a feel, just really builds community for us. And then, of course, that it attracts tourists from all around, and citizens from other cities, brings them here and their dollars here. That'd be great.
Stewart.
She stole my answer. Well, I would say the greatest benefit would be the economic development. It certainly would help to create a growing retail base and tax dollar base. But in addition, you can't tell, but I'm half Chinese, but the rest is mostly Irish. And the Irish have a great tradition of pubs. And that's their third place, right? That's where they get together and community is created. And I think anytime you can do that, create a sense of place and community, it's a win for everybody.
And Mr. Lee.
I think it's already happening. I mean, John Howie's brew pub that's being built in Beardsley, that's already open at Beardsley. McMenamin's is opening in October 15th. The Hop and Hound, the Three Lions pub, the Main Street Ale House that moved into the former Gare de Relais de Lyon. Anybody has any kind of history, you know who I'm talking about. But I think we need to consider what goes along with that. That would also be a revenue producer that doesn't depend upon funding through taxation and borrowing, and that is L taxes, lodging taxes. We have 9 hotels and lodging areas. Now we have McMenamin's. That makes us 10. That's a good trend. And McMenamin's has the added advantage of being local flavor, not a Marriott or a Hyatt that will take away from the character. So why can't we be the other part of the equation with Woodinville? Maybe we can be called the Tipsy Twins. I don't know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is our last audience question. Mr. Lee, you'll begin, and we're going to go right down the row
Lucky me.
this way. Back in the Red Brick Road days, Bothell was an outpost. Bothell then became a suburb, what some might call a sleepy suburb. And now Bothell is seeing intense development, growth, expansion. In 1 minute, what do you say to a resident who moved here because they wanted the sleepy suburb?
Okay, well, I tell you what, having seen the panoply of metaphors that you just used flash before my eyes, you're right. When I first moved here, they said that it was 7 o'clock in Seattle, but it was only 6:49 in Bothell. Okay, so you figured that one out. I would say that you can have kind of your cake and eat it too. And I say kind of because with the Norman Rockwellian world that a person may think that they want or have, there's also conveniences that you may want as well that Norman Rockwell never had. So it's a trade-off. It's the conveniences we want in the lifestyle that we have that we are able to enjoy. And I will tell you, having worked in 134 different cities around the United States and the world, we live in a very rarefied atmosphere, and I say you're damn lucky to live here.
Ms. Dewar.
I have to say, there's a rumor going around that I'm anti-development, so I just want to notify everyone that that's not true. And I would say that change is inevitable. There's no way around it. It's coming, but there are ways to balance. I'm an architect, so I remember one of my professors saying, architects are problem solvers. And there is a problem to be solved here, and that is how to keep the small town feel while we develop. And I think it's multi-pronged. You have to try to protect the best of what you have and protect your neighborhoods and be very thoughtful about how you go about upzoning areas and infilling development. And another aspect to protect quality of life is to make sure you have those amenities like parks and open spaces and things that make people feel like they're not living in a big city.
Mr. Ottersberg.
I moved into Bothell in 2007, and I moved into a new home that had just been built. I don't believe that Bothell should have closed its doors the day that I moved in. At the same time, I want to keep the small town feel that I enjoy about this city. We're going to grow. The Urban Growth Management Act requires that we grow a certain amount per year, so that's state law. That's not something that we can stop. I don't think we need to go crazy. I think we need to meet those requirements. But I worry about those that want to slam the gates around Bothell, because some of those are the same people that will also talk about affordable housing and how we want to make sure that the people who work in Bothell can also live in Bothell. But slamming the gates would be absolutely the wrong thing for us to do, in that supply goes down and prices go way up, and that makes it harder for families to move in and be able to live and work within our city. So it's going to grow. I think we should do so responsibly. I think we should work with developers to ensure that they pay their fair share and grow responsibly.
Thank you. Mr. McNeil?
I think we need a sense of community now. I think it's time that our council represent the community, they serve the community, and I think it's time that we start to listen to the community. being out on the doorstep, the one thing that I hear from everybody is they don't understand. They don't know what's going on. Why is there so much development? Why are we doing 300 units over here, 400 units over there? Why do we have so much traffic? I think we have the responsibility, not only us running for council, but the council themselves, to make sure that they inform the community on how we're going to grow and how we're going to preserve our community. We're going to grow. That's undeniable. We're going to grow. But we can grow in different ways. There's ways to preserve lands throughout our city. There's ways that we can make sure that our schools are taken care of, making sure that we're not overcrowding our kids in schools. So I think the growth is going to come, but I think it's important that we communicate with the city, the citizens, the taxpayers, and make sure that we're doing it the right way.
Mr. Ram.
So Bothell it's gone from an outpost to really a hub. We're right in the middle of Everett, Seattle, and Bellevue, almost exactly. So things have changed. We are inside what is called the urban growth boundary, which basically goes north to south from over east of Woodinville all the way over the Puget Sound. And in that area, we're expected to accommodate 2 more Seattles of population and 2 more Tacomas of population. So they have to go somewhere. So the cities are allocated a specific amount of housing they need to provide. Recently, in the last year, we passed a comprehensive plan that not only met that goal, the target actually, it's a target, it's a state, like was said, is Growth Management Act target. We exceeded it by 5,000 additional houses, or more than that. I don't have the exact number on me, but when the public asks me that question, I tell them, yes, we have to accommodate growth, but we don't need to do what we have been doing by over accommodating the growth more than we can support financially.
Ms. Gortz.
We were all new to Bothell once, and I was welcomed into this community. My home sits on what used to be a farm, and honestly, I'd rather it still be a farm. That's my dream for a house. But our city is growing, and there are exciting things happening here. There's prosperity happening all around us. I too think you can't stop the growth, because then your prices just skyrocket. You have to use the tools that you have available to you, like we've done by zoning density in our cores, therefore preserving the character of our neighborhoods. Just policies like that protect the character that we came to love about the city.
Thank you. We are now back to our series of questions underneath a specific topic where you get 2 minutes. It's going to seem like you have forever now. You don't have to be quite as succinct as you were. So these next 3 questions, and we'll start with position 2, in some way or form talk about economic development. So for position 2, Mr. Rayam, you begin. What additional steps should the city take to continue the revitalization of downtown?
So there's a few things that we need to do. We need to finish the projects that have been started and not complete. The city is actually finding ways to fund those, so that's good, outside of a bond. The other thing we need to do is make sure that we do get retail in with the new development. I've heard quite a bit that people are a bit unsatisfied with the amount of retail that we are seeing. Again, retail tax, there's a 3-legged stool. We fund the city with property tax, real estate tax, which is when a house is bought or sold, and then sales tax. Is that property sales? Yeah. And so we need to do that. We need to fill up the business parks with businesses. I think we could do a better job of trying to draw businesses into our business parks. There's quite a bit of space available in them, that as far as I'm aware. And just really try to make the downtown revitalization happen. Now, there is the Canyon Park. It's a regional. We have so much time this time. It's fun. The regional growth center is in Canyon Park, and you want to talk about regional money coming in to help us support our economic development. That's where it's going to happen. We could get a lot of support to try to build an additional regional center there. I don't know where the public's at with that, because we haven't even talked about it, but I know on a regional scale they keep talking about Bothell being the lowest producing regional growth center in the state. So and that is the Canyon Park Regional Growth Center. So if we did those things, I think the economic development of the city would be strong.
Thank you. Ms. Gortz.
Yeah, I quite agree with my opponent there. It can only get better. We are one of the underproducing cities, so it will improve as we put our efforts into it. Downtown, finishing it, we have to finish cleaning up Lot O, and now there's new Lot P. Anyway, we have to finish cleaning those up so they can be sold. And once those are sold, that revenue then pays for those public areas downtown. those public areas, once they're finished, businesses will see that, okay, Bothell's got its act together. We're ready to, we can jump in. Those who've been maybe a little bit reticent so far, they will see that it's ready, and they will come, and we will get that revenue flowing again.
Okay, thank you. For our position 4 candidates, Mr. McNeil, you're going to go first on this one. What are the most effective ways to attract more business to Bothell?
Most attractive ways would be to go out and reach out to business owners and find ways to find incubators and things like that. I don't believe giving tax breaks and incentives to businesses is a way to bring them here, but I believe that if you have a community that will support them, it's important. So I take a little bit from like Kirkland and what they did. They created an infrastructure that allowed retail businesses and eating restaurants and all the different types of things and businesses that will bring people to their downtown corridor. And I think if we do that same thing here, I think we could have a vibrant Main Street and a vibrant downtown revitalization area.
Mr. Ottersberg.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. What are the most effective ways to attract more business to Bothell?
So I believe that once the downtown revitalization is complete, I don't think it's going to be hard to fill those with businesses relatively quickly. You get an anchor store like a Trader Joe's, please, or Starbucks. Others are going to come in, and that's going to work out. I'm more concerned about the business parks, especially in the Canyon Park area that are empty right now. Those are areas where I would support a tax break to bring those in and all of their employees. Bothell doesn't have a B&O tax, and that's something that is very attractive to businesses, but it still hasn't gone far enough in order to bring them in. We can do more.
All right. We're on to our position 6 candidates. This is the third version of the economic development question, and one that's near to my heart, so I'm going to embellish it a little bit. We have almost 10,000 students who come to Bothell to study at Cascadia College and the University of Washington, Bothell. How can the city partner with UW Bothell and Cascadia to best connect the campus to downtown Bothell? Mr. Lee.
I'm sorry. Say that one more time, please.
Should I do the whole embellishment?
No.
We have.
That's okay.
How can the city partner with UW Bothell and Cascadia to best connect the campus to downtown?
I think it's doing a pretty good job as it is. I think we need to continue with that association and partnership, keeping in mind that there were some council members at the time when the vote came up that actually opposed the University of Washington Bothell and Cascadia campus being built here, which I think is unconscionably stupid. And as a result of that, that is something that we should not ever go back to that kind of thinking, because University of Washington would build it somewhere. Thank goodness, thank God, that is in Bothell, because that is the anchor. And I'm not saying that just because you're there. But the other thing is, let's also help to foster true affordable housing. Well, I guess would be, let's talk about what can be done for student housing. Other than the little confined areas that I see, I would have to do, would have to get more information. But what can we do to help to stimulate the growth that is happening as we speak, year-over-year growth in terms of tuition and the, sorry, not tuition, but the enrollments. So let's see if we can help to continue with the momentum by helping the infrastructure to support that momentum.
Ms. Dewar, how would you connect UW Bothell and Cascadia to downtown?
I assume you don't mean physically.
Would the city partner with UW Bothell and Cascadia to best connect the campus to downtown?
Well, I think it starts with a lot of conversation and seeing where we can partner with internships or ways that we could help get those students out in the community, whether it's volunteering or working at a business, ways that they can integrate into our community and feel like they're a part of it.
Okay, thank you. I'd love to have everyone answer that question, but that's unfair. So I have to follow the script. We'll talk after. We've come to the final moments of our forum. Thank you very much for all of you spending the evening with us. We're not quite done. We have closing comments yet to go, and thank you to the audience, too. You've been very well behaved. The closing comments entitles you to 2 minutes apiece and topic of your choice. You can go anywhere you want, elaborate, answer a question that was asked of someone else, or Just give us the things which are on your mind at this point. So, beginning with 2 minutes and your final wrap-ups, we'll begin with Mr. Ram.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming tonight and listening to us. You know, to me, running again for city council, it really is to try to. I'm doing this for the public. I'm really not doing this for myself. My wife's here; she can attest to that. I'm really genuinely concerned about where the city is right now. I was concerned when I got here 4 years ago, and I'm even more concerned now. And so I'm hoping that we can really turn this city around and make it what it can be. We live in a great location. We can do a lot of great things here together, and I think we can make that happen. I want to speak to the lightning round because I don't like it when I can't say something because I've been on council for 4 years. So I want to say a couple of things. The fireworks ban, I put up the yes card. I would be willing to do it. That is caveated with a vote of the public to let us know how they feel about it. There's 23 cities that have banned fireworks in King County, and I think in Snohomish County it's about the same too. It's almost all of them basically of our size. So I'd support it, but I would want to know where the public was. The RFA, there's a love-hate relationship with the RFA in my mind right now. But the bottom line is, if the city can't pull it together and do what it needs to do for its its fire department, I don't blame them for wanting to leave the city. They have a mechanism to do so, and if we don't do the right thing and give them the support that they need in training and professional development, I will help them find a way to make that happen. The last part, I just want to point out that the last levy that the city put out there was not a parks levy. That's why it failed. It was misrepresented, and I think we can do a better job this time by being very clear that is a park levy, not a roads levy. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gortz, 2 minutes.
In this election, you have a clear choice between the status quo and a fresh new dynamic on council. I have no objection to my opponent as a person, but we do approach city issues from different perspectives. My opponent works for the government in his day job, and it shows. He advocates from the government position to the citizens. My idea of how a council person should operate is that they represent you to your city government. He talks about raising your taxes because the city needs more money. I would ask the city to use my taxes more wisely. He voted to raise your property taxes 1 week after you voted down Prop 1, which would have raised your property taxes. I will listen to what you say and follow your lead. I'm not an insider. I have no special interests or conflicts of interest. I will be free to be your representative. I'm a common sense, clear-thinking mom who will keep a watch out for your tax dollars and your interests, and I would appreciate your support and your vote.
Mr. McNeil.
People often ask me why I'm running for city council, and I say because it's time that we have a voice and our voice is being heard. 9 months ago, I started One Bothell with 3 gentlemen, and I learned a lot about how our city operates and how the council does business. And when I came to speak at the podium, it was interesting that we weren't heard. People were not being heard on when they came to speak. What's important to me is to make sure that moving forward, our city, we build the trust back that the community deserves. The people that sit on council should be serving the community. They should be doing the people's work. They should find ways to go reach out to legislators, state and federal level, make sure that we bring them back and we do the people's work. It's important to me because I think that we build a strong foundation for our children. What we want to do is leave a legacy behind for our children, and I want to make sure that we, the city of Bothell, have a council that represents us, that's doing our work. As far as the experience, people have said I'm a developer and I'm a construction manager, things like that. I have experience throughout working with all different types of municipalities, and the one thing I will tell you is they have an open book. They'll come in, they'll listen to you, you can talk to them anytime you want. What I will do for the city is I will bring trust, transparency, openness back to the city. I'll hold informal meetings with the community as I've done with One Bothell, and I'll make sure that every single one of the people that call me, ask to talk to me, are heard, and I will bring that back. We have to make sure that our council represents us, and the one thing to remember is there's 7 people sitting here. One person can't get it done alone, and it does take a community to make a difference.
Mr. Ottersberg.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Chamber for hosting this event and you for moderating, and for everybody for taking a night out to participate in the politics and the political process within our city. For me, this election is about balance. I have concerns that Snohomish County, 40% of Bothell will go unrepresented if all 7 council members are from King County. For me, it's even problematic that my opponent lives in the same neighborhood as another council member. It seems odd that a single HOA would control 30% of the vote when 40% of Bothell doesn't have representation. At the same time, as my opponent mentioned, he is part of the development and real estate community. I think that community, that profession, has enough representation on our current council. I don't think that it needs more. I'm a director of software engineering at a healthcare technology company. I will bring no conflict of interest. I'm not a landowner within Bothell, other than my home, which the bank owns plenty of it. And I'm someone who's going to serve with honesty, integrity, transparency, no issues, no baggage that I'm going to bring to council. And I ask for your vote in November.
Ms. Dewar.
I'm running for city council because I want my town back. I feel like special interests have taken control of not only council but also planning commission. Mr. Ottersberg talks about developers, which is interesting since James, Andy, and I did not receive money from the Affordable Housing Council, the PAC from the Master Builders Association. So that argument to me is a moot point. We need a city council that we can trust, that we know doesn't have ulterior motives and that are not lining their pockets with deals on the side and representing a PAC instead of our citizens. And that's why I'm running. That's the only reason I'm running. I don't own land. I'm not going to benefit. I'm sure my stress level would go through the roof, but it's worth it because this town is important, and the future of this town is really, it's a decision, this election.
Mr. Lee.
Thanks for the time. I know the hour is getting late, but bear with me. I'm running on 2 levels. One is quantitative, one is qualitative. Let's talk about the quantitative. I want to do 4 things during the tenure. 1, finish quickly and professionally the work that was begun in the downtown Bothell corridor. 2, build the infrastructure that will, or help to build the infrastructures, whether it be school, roads, fire, police, EMT, water and sewer, to keep up with the growth. 3, promote local and regional businesses and organizations, and we're tracking well for that, so that's good. 4, promote Bothell to grow, but in careful, consensus-driven ways via real science and populist support. Now, let's get to the nub, the qualitative. There are really 2 visions set before us, all of us. One is driven by anxiety, fear, and suspicion, which seeks to keep Bothell as it was. The other one is one of hope and courage, moving forward, drawing its strength and its wisdom from the Bothell citizenry. I'm of the latter camp. I think most people tend to be that way. You see, I'm not trying to protect Bothell from the harsh realities of life, because that's not a possible scenario, but to lead it to engage the reality of life. And through perseverance and wisdom that comes not from my meager possession of wits, but from the populace. Lastly, if we do it right, if we do everything that we just said on this board, or that I just said, if we do it right, that's how governance should work to begin with. That's what the Founding Fathers wanted. That's why I want your support. Thank you.
I'd ask the audience if we could all give our candidates an applause for being there. And likewise, candidates, you can thank the audience and our viewers at home for watching tonight. Appreciate everyone being here. I have 3 important dates for you to remember before I let you go. First, on September 19th, it's right around the corner, is the Vintage Bothell Wine, Beer, and Spirits Walk on Main Street. It is a fundraiser for the Chamber. I encourage you to buy your tickets early. We often sell out. Second, on October 17th is Beer Fest. We encourage you to attend, also here in Bothell. And finally, we bring to you on November 3rd, Election Day, and I encourage all of you to come out and vote for a candidate. Thank you for being here. Good night.